How you doing?
Yeah, good. Very much looking forward to meet you. I've been talking to my dad and my family and parents about this for a long time, so I'm super stoked just to sit and chat to you in person or camera person.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks for joining. You said it's 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. out there. It's 11 o'clock here, almost 11.
Yeah. We're getting ready. We just put up some dinner now, and after this, we'll probably go to bed and sleep very well.
So you are where in South Africa?
I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa at the
Okay.
moment. Yeah, that's where I stay.
And that's where you're from? That's where you grew up?
Yeah, majority of my life, like moved around quite a bit, but for a majority of my life, I've been staying here with my parents, and then obviously now for the last, I think, 2 years with my wife, moved in. We staying in an apartment here.
When this is your first time qualifying to the games, right?
Yeah, definitely this is my first time, first of many, hopefully.
How do you say your name?
Ruan Potgieter.
Wow, Ruan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a very Afrikaans name, especially
yeah.
the surname. A lot of people always get the surname wrong with the G. How we pronounce it is always a bit funny and weird. It's always funny to hear people pronounce the surname.
When are you going to come out to this? Well, congratulations on qualifying for the games for the first time.
Sure, thank you.
How old are you?
2028 this year, so 27 currently.
Okay, when are you going to head out to the U.S. for the games this year?
We are flying on the 31st, and then hopefully be ready so we can get there on registration day on the 6th. So 31st is the flight. I think at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who do you train with, or what is your training protocol? What do you do for programming?
I follow my coach at Vivify U, Ricky Hazer. He's my coach. He programs for me, sends me programming, and I go see him once to twice a week if I can. He stays in about a half an hour away from me, so I can't see him every day. But about once to twice a week, I fill in, go to his facility, and then train with him. Yeah.
The rest of the time, where are you training?
Currently at call it a box. I would say a box that I'm training at now. It's called Wico Fitness.
Okay.
I do have some training partners every now and again. For a majority of training, I train by myself, just because the mates and guys that I do train with, their jobs just don't allow for flexibility all the time. So most of my training would be by myself.
Have you linked up with anyone with experience, or do you talk to anyone who's been to the games for advice?
Yeah. I've competed and chatted with Brent Fikowski a few times. We competed in Egypt together, I think 2 years ago. He took first place, I took second, and from there we've been chatting on and off a few times, which is quite nice. And then for games experience, that's the only guys that I've spoken to before. So I'm keen to meet more guys. I briefly, what was cool at the Egypt competition, Pat Vellner was there to watch and support, and he had a little post on and tagged me in it. So I don't want to say I chatted to Pat Vellner, but there was a funny little post between him and Brent Fikowski where I beat Brent in one event. And Pat posted something up there. It's like Brent's doing burpees in Egypt, Brent's doing handstand walking in Egypt, and Brent's running across the finish line, but Ruan's already doing an interview. So I thought that was something very, very funny. So I'm really keen to meet Pat and just chat about that again when I see him.
What did you beat Brent at?
It was a quick little sprint relay workout. It was burpees over a box, pistol squats, handstand walk, and then you just make your way back again. So it was like a down and back top of ladder event. It was very quick. It was about a 3-4 minute event.
How long have you been doing CrossFit?
This is my 9th year at this stage. This is my 9th year training, and in my 9th year now making it to the games first time.
What do you feel like is your strength?
I would say like I don't really have a massive strength. I'm fairly good on my hands, so I like handstand work. I'm very excited. I keep telling everybody I'm so stoked that I'm really hoping that Castro pulls out the handstand obstacles and cool stuff like before. Because here in Africa, we've never had the opportunity to do an event that has something intricate like a handstand walk obstacle with stairs and ramps and pirouettes. So I'm really hoping that comes up in the games. That'll be super fun to just kind of showcase and do something like that. But I don't really have since I've been working with Ricky, I don't really have a super strong strength or a really bad weakness at this stage.
So you must be really excited about meeting all the other athletes and just spending time with them. And
100%. This year is like I'm super stoked to just meet everybody, like meet you in person, chat, see what the event's like, see what the vibe's like. So I'm just really excited to kind of be there and compete as hard as I can. So I'm looking forward to everything that goes with that.
It's clearly really intense. It's fast paced. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. It's a lot of
Yeah,
for as hard as the games are, there's a lot of actual downtime in between events, just because there's so many other pieces going on. So
yeah.
it'll be you'll be in for a wild ride. I think you'll be very. I think you'll really enjoy it. I hope you enjoy
No,
it.
I'm sure. Well, I've like watched the games over and over so many times from all the past years, and even now with some of the other guys in interviewing, you keep saying like questions that you have for me or not, and I've been waiting actually to ask you a question, just
Yes.
for interest's sake. How do you or what is inspirations for you to always make it so exciting for programming? Like, how do you find the different combinations, and how do you make it so absolutely cool to do the games every year? Every year it gets better. I don't know how you do that.
I think just off of almost 2 decades of experience doing this, like having a pretty good awareness and understanding of what events are going to play out well and how combinations and how flow will look for the viewer at home, will look for the viewer in the stadium, and will feel for the athletes. I think one thing I want to say about all of that is the programming doesn't have to be crazy over the top. It just has to be a nice platform to let you guys race and show your capabilities. So I think I see this with a lot of beginning programmers for events. They try to make the programming the centerpiece of the
Yeah.
event, where I try to let the programming showcase the athlete who is the centerpiece of the event.
Yeah.
So
And do you test your own workouts, or is it always just other games athletes to test the
in
workouts?
I'll say this, in the early days I would test some of the stuff. As years went on, I would start testing a little with the women's weights. But there is a because I do CrossFit and because I train a lot and I program for myself through my own training and journey, there is I identify combinations or things that I think would be neat to put in the games, or sometimes the open, or sometimes the other stage. So my
Yeah,
own self journey does help me with a lot of these, but I'm definitely not to get the timing right and to get the feel. I'm not testing at this point.
yeah. Yeah, I'm part of a local competition, as you hear. I run it with a friend of mine called Warren, and it's called Squad Games on here. So we also do programming testing, and the event has grown quite well. And that's why I asked, because I'm part of the demo team and the programming team on that event as well. And I'm always testing the events just to kind of get a feel. So even if there's guys that are doing the workout, at their different pace, different level, it's just cool to kind of get the feel of what the athletes are going to feel. So that's why I wanted to know, like, do you
Yeah.
also go through, because some of the events that you've done at the games before has been absolutely brutal to watch. So just even if it's not a competitive time you put up, I was just
Well,
curious to see if you're also testing the workouts just to feel what we're going to feel when we do them.
well, what I talked about earlier on one of these with someone else was I did before anybody did at the games, the marathon row. I tested that twice just to understand, again, like you're saying, what it's going to feel like. But I think the main reason I did it, more importantly, was to see how much the body was going to be beat up by the row for the next few days. Um,
Yeah,
like if I were to program a marathon run, a lot of people would be beat up and broken on days 2 and day 3 and in day 4. So a marathon run, I think, would be hard to program because of the effects on the body. And I needed to determine that that wasn't going to be the case with the marathon row. Like I did
awesome.
the marathon row, and then the next few days I wasn't overly sore. I could move around, and then at that point it's the old, if I can do it, they can do it. There's been other
Yeah,
things like the 100-pound dumbbell snatch when that ended up in regionals.
yeah,
I snatched it in my house and train, not in training, but just in testing. And then once I was able to snatch it, I was like, okay, if I can do it, they can all do it. I have this little running
okay.
joke that if I can do it, they can do it rule. And
Yeah, yeah,
so
love it.
I've used that a handful of times. Flipping the pig once, same
Yeah,
sort of thing. So
okay. Can I ask you another question?
yeah,
Um, for some of the events, obviously, it doesn't help you to try and ask you what the events are going to be or give us any hints away. Um, but would you say it's a good idea to test a lot of, or now while we have some time to prep, like a lot of odd object or just everything, maybe even
uh,
things in the past or some new stuff?
as you as an athlete,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
recommend
yeah.
it. Yeah,
I'm trying to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like getting ready to go to the games now, and I wanna make sure I'm ready for Dave Castro's and Bosman's combinations of stuff. Like, should try everything, or maybe something that they haven't even spoken or thought about.
I think you should try everything within some defined parameters. And what I mean by that is like, clearly we're not going to have shooting. Clearly we're not going to have bow and arrow. There's a certain amount of stuff that we will do that are kind of like within the CrossFit bank of movements, call it. And honestly, becoming a student of our past is probably a good recommendation to see the types of things we would do potentially in the future, and deviating slightly from some of those elements, but not going too crazy. Like, we're not going to get too outside of the box. And ultimately, the concept of movements that move large loads, long distances quickly, kind of anchor us off of what types of things we should and can do.
Okay.
But there's like, even if you look at a majority of the CrossFit games, almost all of them, I would say 70 to 80% of the workouts are pretty core and classic. And then there's about 30%, or there's another segment that kind of get outside the traditional box and do things that you typically don't see.
Yeah.
So being really good at
cool. That's what's cool about the games, because nobody can do that at the games except you guys.
Being really good at the fundamentals, being really good at pure CrossFit, being really good with your technique and intensity will put you in a good place. That's the other thing too, is like, I think I would recommend, before diving too much into all the crazy stuff, just get a really sound foundation, solid foundation, which if you're at this stage, if you're qualifying for the games, you obviously have a solid foundation, but just keep working on that, and keep working on intensity, and just like redlining, like just going there, going as hard as you fucking can, and then maybe even staying there for longer than you're used to.
Okay.
Yeah, and or going harder than you're used to if needed.
Okay. And I guess I know the video is probably going to stop soon. I know you got short little times, everybody. I'm sure you've seen like on some like Instagram posts and stuff like that, like people do weird combinations just for fun and like jokes. But have you seen the new thing that's come across where the guys are doing a burpee over bar, but it's a pull-up bar? Do you guys laugh at some things that you come across? Do you actually look at a few things like, hey, I can play around with it, I can do something like that a little bit differently at the games, actually at a realistic level?
I laugh at most of it. I get DMs all the time that say, "Hey, I have this great idea for the get," and then I just tune out. If I see I have great ideas for the game, I'm just out of there. I don't even
out of it. Okay.
Yeah. I think some of the combinations of gymnastics movements, or the complexity that people do with some of this shit, is just it's noise, and it's not clean and pure. I'm old school CrossFit, and so I just like the simple movements that deliver a powerful dose. So a lot of that stuff I laugh at. But let me tell me about what you just described. So it's a burpee.
There's these I've seen like 2-3 videos where people do a burpee. They jump up to the pull-up rig, do like a muscle up, kick their feet over, and then they're on the ground. So it's a burpee over bar, but it's now a higher bar. So burpee, jump, do a muscle up, get your whole body over the bar, burpee, jump, do a muscle up over the bar. And I look at that stuff.
I'll say this. I don't think that one bothers me too much. Conceptually, like, I like what they're trying to do there. I think that combination in testing, or let me rephrase, I think that combination for training sounds great. Even in a test, even at the games, I wouldn't write that off. I like that. It's why I like that too. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and pretty basic. And why I say that is burpee, and here's a bar, get up and over. And so like the story there, and then just get up and over a few times, is pretty clean. So I could rally behind something like that.
All right. I'll start practicing that for next year.
All right.
Got you.
Ruan, did I say that right?
Almost. Ruan.
Thank you. This was a great chat. I really enjoyed getting to meet you and getting to know you. And I will see you in a few weeks at the CrossFit Games.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I can't wait to see and meet you again. It's going to be awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.